All right, hello everyone. Hello. We're back, full board vision. And we're going to do some puzzle streak. Some of my favorite ways to learn. Yeah. Force online check, yeah. Just seeing whether Lichess is going to pick up our stream. It doesn't look like it is. It looks like we're offline, so never mind. We're going to move into some puzzle streak. So, if you don't know what puzzle streak is, you're about to find out. But it's pretty much what the name suggests. So you solve puzzles until you get one wrong, then your streak finishes, and the puzzles get increasingly more difficult. So here's the first puzzle at rating 1039. Okay. So we're also going to just give some explanations of what's going on with these puzzles as we solve them, which might be helpful for you guys. If you're beginners, if you're experienced players or whatever. Well, let's see what goes on. Alright, so what have we got here? And what's the name of this tactic? Well, I think this tactic is a discovery. So what we can do is we can take on e7, and that's a check. And we discover this attack on the b7 bishop. So the question is there anything better than that that's going to win a piece? And the resulting position, so I'm expecting after knight takes e7, queen takes b7. You know, there's a check. But it doesn't look like black has anything in that position. So, there we go. Alright, happy days. Alright, let's just see if we can... do we want... I don't think we want Zen mode. That's not what we want. I don't really want all of these arrows on the board and stuff. So, can we get rid of that somehow? Can we get rid of that? Let's have a quick look. It doesn't look like it's giving me the option. Did you solve this? Did I like the puzzle? Yes, I did. Okay. We're on puzzle number 2. We've done 1. This is 2. Okay, I think I see this one. So, forcing moves. So queen e1 is a check, and there's only one reply. Queen f1 is the only legal move. And then we've got this, I think it's called a deflection. You know what? I'm just going to bring in a little bit of something for you. So let's just work this out, because I've got something to show you. Desktop 109. Okay, so give us a sec. What we actually want here. So let's bin that. Here we go. Okay. Alright, so let's just see, is it working? It's not quite working. Okay, why is that? One sec. Weird. Okay, let's alright, let's leave that for another day. kind of want to get that working though. Okay, let's... Yeah. This is very unprofessional, but you know, no one's actually looking right now, so... Okay, great. So we've got something working. I'm gonna go over here, do a bit of that, and then go like this.
Removing the guard.
Yeah, I think you can probably hear that, right?
Double attack.
Cool. Okay, so what I was looking for here is after Queen E1. So let's draw the arrows again. I like doing these different colored arrows. Like, this is pretty cool. So Queen E1, the only legal move is Queen F1. And then there's this brilliant move, Bishop takes F2. And I think this is called...
deflection.
Yeah. It deflects the king away from the defense of the queen. Yeah. Wherever the king goes. If it captures an H2 or the only other legal move, which is King H1, both of them will lose the queen. So in the resulting position, that's what's going to... There's no danger for us. So Queen E1, Queen F1, Bishop takes H2, King H2, Queen takes F1, and that's that. All right, now let's have a look at this position. Now, the first thing we should always ask is, what are our opponent's threats? Now, right now, our opponent is threatening to take our queen. That's the main threat. Now, the guy that's defending the rook, which is allowing this threat to occur, really, is the knight on d7 here. Okay. Now, we can take that knight with a check. How should we put that? We can take that knight with a check. With a check. And we remove it. Then we can take the rook. So, knight takes d7.
Removing the guard.
And we can go up here and just capture the rook. Okay, that was removing the guard. Alright, what have we got here? So, actually in this position we're material down. Okay, we're a pawn down, and we're also, you know, we've got a queen for these two rooks. Two rooks are worth more than queen. Very interesting position to rise, queen versus two rooks. Now, what I notice here is that the king is wobbly, right? The king's in a spot, tight spot. And in fact, if we just land the queen here on e3 with a check, which is the most obvious move, I think, we can then capture the knight. Is it clear that that position is so great? They'll take on f7. The king is very wobbly, so let's just see. If we go queen e3, if they go g2, we can take this with a check. So let's assume that they don't do that. Let's assume that they go to h4. Yeah, the problem is that then we take the knight, right? And we're threatening queen g4 mate, thanks to the defense of our pawn on h5. So yeah, this has to be the winning move. Okay, good. All right, what are our opponent's threats? Opponent has the black pieces. Guess. Hang on. Yeah. Queen takes g5 is a threat. I think this one's pretty easy. So without really thinking what the opponent's threats are, I think it's a mate in 2 with queen g6, and there are two legal moves. There's either king h8 or there's bishop g7. On both of those, queen h7 is actually a checkmate. So I don't think we need to look any further. Cool. No extra analysis needed on that one. All right. Puzzle number 5. What are our opponent's threats? I don't think there are any threats. I don't believe there are. Can't see any. Queen b6 is a check. Bishop c5, that is also a check. We should be using red arrows for our opponent's moves. Bishop c5. These are checks. Well, not really threats. So I'm going to say there are any threats. We've got to notice here that we're a piece down. So actually, bishop takes knight is probably a threat. Just, trading off pieces or just getting the king safe would be a threat. So knight d7 to f6 would be what I'd be doing straight away if I had the black pieces. Okay. We have got an extra pawn for our piece, the d pawn, and actually this is a fork, so we don't need to look any further. I don't think. Knight takes e4 is a fork. It's very nice. We unpin, right? This is a pin, but we break it, and we break it with check. We fork, and we've actually got a second attack on the g4 knight. So I expect we're going to take here. What would the legal moves be? Well, they're all king moves. And I think the king's probably going to go back to g8. If it goes anywhere in the middle of the board, if it steps forward to either of any of these squares, it's still not going to help defend this bishop on g4. So we are going to get that back. I guess the thing that we just need to take care of, right, because you have to take care in these positions. Knight takes e5, king g8, knight takes g4. We've got to there are checks in these positions, okay? But none of them seem to do any good. So queen d4 check. We can just go king h1, I think, there. We might lose this pawn. But yeah, I think all's well. So let's go. They went king e8. Yeah, computer doesn't want to see anymore. All right, puzzle number 6. We're a piece down in this puzzle. Okay, but for our piece we have 2 pawns, and we've got some good development. We've got some well-developed pieces, and we've also, looks like this thing is just free. Looks like it's just hanging. Looks like just a hanging piece. So let's calculate. We capture the hanging piece on h5. What happens if they trade rooks? That's one question. What else? What are our opponent's threats in this position? All right, knight takes bishop. Just sort of trading down, I would say. Is it a threat? I don't see any other threats. Okay, so, interesting. If we play rook takes h5, what if they play bishop g4? What if they play bishop g4? And what do we do about that? Yeah, it's not obvious, not obvious. I guess it's kind of interesting. So we take our piece back. So we're ahead of material at that point. Then they attack our queen, and we say, all right, I'm going to take your rook. You're going to take my queen. And then check this out. We can play rook takes bishop on g7. And then we're still attacking 2 pieces. Right? We're also defending our knight. So I don't see a way for our opponent to get out of that. And that means that if you just assess the material after this, and let's say, I don't know, let's say bishop h3, bishop a6, sorry. Oh, no, you can't do that. We win the queen. Oof. Okay, they've got to go knight. Okay, the line's got to go like this, I think. Rook takes h5, bishop g4, rook takes h7, bishop takes e2, rook takes g7, knight f6, in order to prevent the rook landing on g8, where it will do a liver check and win the queen. And then probably knight takes e2. And if you look at what's left on the board, black only has 1 minor piece left. That's the knight on f6. They've got 1 minor piece, a rook, and a queen. We're going to have 3 minor pieces and 2 rooks. And 2 extra pawns. So we got way more war material, like +4. That's a difficult line. +4. So instead, they just trade pieces. We should have... kind of want to go back. Kind of want to go back to the previous puzzle. Can we do that? All right, let's just have a quick look and just make sure that our analysis was correct. Okay. But let's put the engine on. So I just want to make sure. What if they play bishop g4? Yeah, we suck our queen. Go there. They go... okay, they could also play queen e6. Yeah, okay. These are the kind of things that you want to look at. +6. Very good. Okay, back to puzzle streak. Number 7. All right, what are our opponent's threats? Not really threatening anything, actually. Don't believe they can take on e6, because then our d pawn is just going to run down the board. Although, let's think about this. Okay, the quickest route to us making a queen is d4, d3, d2, d1. Right, takes 4 moves. The quickest route for them to make a queen is to capture, move out of the way, either to d7 or to c7, and then push 3 times. So that's 5 moves. We only need 4, and it's our go first. That means, so it's quite difficult to really explain these things or to comprehend them. But I guess it's our move, and it takes us fewer moves to queen. That means we're going to queen, and on their next move, they're going to get to the square before queening. Okay. If it's even and it's our move, we queen first, they queen. The quickest route to getting to a queen is just to go d4, d3, d2, d1, make a queen. So that's fairly easy. Fairly easy to calculate. Let's progress. So, I love a bit of puzzle streak. I do love it. Okay, what are our opponent's threats? Same question we ask every time. Or, what's the material balance? Well, currently we're a pawn down. Okay, otherwise, oh, hang on, we're a pawn and a rook down. So, a large amount of material has been given up to get to this position. What are our opponent's threats? Therefore, just to swap off, like rook takes f1. What are we going to do? Queen f1, and we've got nothing. So, we'll go back. Go back, would you? So we have to act fast. Okay. Candidate moves. Well, there's 2 captures and checks in the position. They're looking pretty tasty. There's a capture down here. Right, that's just a whole rook. Get the whole rook back, just be a pawn down. That also looks good. I think there's a problem with that, though. There might be. Bishop e5 also looks a bit threatening, right? Because that's going to force our queen to go somewhere, and it's also going to x-ray our king's only flight square against some kind of back rank mate. So we've got to be careful about that kind of thing. Anyway, against bishop f7, or so bishop f7 versus queen f7, which looks better? Queen f7 just looks better. The queen's just a more powerful piece. We also notice that the e8 rook is undefended, right? So as soon as we capture here, there's only one legal move, which is king h8. Then we can go ahead and capture this rook. And then there are two legal moves, right? There's bishop f8 or queen f8. And, well, we've actually got the f8 square well under control because we'll have our queen here on e8. Actually, our rook here is pinned. So, right. Okay, so got it. Okay, so this is how it works. So in queen f7, king h8, we play queen takes e8, right? And then material is even. But we're going to win more material because there's two legal moves there. If they play queen f8, we trade queens, and then we pick up this rook down here. Okay, so we're going to be a rook up, so they can't do that. That's losing. That's funny. But if they play bishop f8, and then we just take the rook immediately. Okay, so the idea is that this rook is just hanging in at the end of all variations. But first, we go ahead and pick up this rook with a tempo. There we go. Very nice. All right. Puzzle number 9. Sip of brew. Have you seen it yet?
Nightfall.
I don't think we need to look much further. What we should do, right? Because, you know, if we just go knight fork, do it, and then we forget that our opponent has a passed pawn that they're about to queen, we'll lose the game. Okay, we're playing the black pieces. See, this pawn looks like it's going to queen. Now, this is quite interesting, actually. I think we have to play knight c6. Check. King moves probably to b6. And we take the rook, they queen, we queen. We're just a knight up. But the way we should have done that is what are our opponent's threats to queen? I guess. Or even to take our pawn and then queen is perhaps an even bigger threat. Anyway, this is the way to go. Knight c6. Interesting. King b5. I thought king b6. I guess it doesn't really matter much. We take this, they queen, and we queen. All right. Puzzle number 11. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, this is really interesting. Right, the feature here, but by the way, what are our opponent's threats? I mean, do they have any? To take our queen, obviously, is number one. Are they threatening to take this rook as well? Well, not really, because it's defended. And it can't be captured a second time, right? Because this rook, and this is the essential feature of this puzzle, is pinned to the queen, to the king. Right, this rook cannot move vertically. Right, and that in particular means that it's not actually defending the e6 rook. This rook is defended only by this queen. It's attacked twice. Right, it's attacked by both of these guys. So that's the key to this puzzle. So I think we just go ahead and we just take on e6. And that is a tactical defense of our queen. If they take our queen, we take their queen. And we're a rook up. But what else can they do? They can't recapture the rook with their rook, which would be the only other way to keep the material. So That looks great, but let's just check that in the resulting position we're not missing anything. Well, what could our opponent do? There are no checks. This check just looks silly. These ones are obviously covered by our queen, so I think we just go ahead and take on e6 and then pick up a queen. Be a rook ahead. All right. Puzzle number 12. Puzzle number 12. So we've got the white pieces. What are our opponent's threats? What's the material balance? Hang on. Well, all 8 pawns, a minor piece each. Let's get these circles right. 2 rooks each, and a queen each. Wrong way around. All right. Opponent's threats, I guess, you know, our knight is hanging. Our queen is hanging. Our pawn is hanging. So, you know, pawns, stuff. There's a lot of captures possible. I don't really see any. I mean, this is the queen takes e2 and queen takes d5 are the obvious threats. Let's go those arrows the right color. You know, red for our opponent. Red for warning. All right. So what ideas do we have? There are a lot of checks in this position. How many? So it's always good to count. There's a lot of checks and a lot of captures. The move that catches my eye straight away is h6. And the point is, you'd like to take on f6, but it's defended by the king. If you drive the king away first with h6 check, the king is going to go to either g8 or h6, right, or h8, probably g8. h6, king g8, queen takes f6, and the problem is, the queen is coming to g7 with a mate, and that can't be stopped. So the fact that our knight is attacked is irrelevant. So h6, king g8, queen f6, and then, you know, what's this about? The computer has worked out that queen takes g7 is an unavoidable threat, unless you give up your queen. So that delays the mate for one move. All right. Here we are. All right, puzzle number 13. What are our opponent's threats? Now, they haven't really... Yeah, queen takes queen. Right, they're threatening our queen, so let's not allow that. They're 2 pawns up. Material otherwise even. So they're kind of threatening just to swap off. You know, so if you see this position go, I better defend my queen and play rook g5, they'll just trade, and in the resulting position, it's going to be a trouble. Someone's actually just challenged me to play a casual, unrated standard game. I Peki Eldurim. Sorry, mate, we're doing puzzle streak at the moment, so casual, unlimited, standard. We'll come back to that. Anyway, so what do we do here? Well, I mean, I think I see this pretty soon, pretty quickly. If we trade queens, this brings the rook off the back rank. And the problem for black is that their bishop is still here on c8. So the back rank is not covered by this rook on a8. So we trade queens, and then we can throw this rook to the back rank. And the only legal move in that position is to take the rook here from f7 and put it back on f8. And then we capture it, so it's a mate. So, I mean, if you take the queen back, it's mate in 2. So it's basically a free queen. But it's probably mate if you don't take it. So, yeah. There we go. All right, let's carry on. So, I mean, puzzles start getting more fun as they get higher up. We got to 1400 rating. Okay. All right, so this one already looks interesting. 6 pawns each. They have this knight embedded in e5. Really nice outpost due to this pawn on d4. What are they threatening? I don't think they're threatening anything. Don't think there are any threats. At least I can't see any. Okay. So, what should we do? I think I see what we should do. Queen's a bit offside, isn't it? And when you look at a queen and you see it's not got many escape routes, you know, doesn't have any escape routes horizontally, like these squares are covered. This one, it's covered by, how can I draw this? The c6 pawn covers b5. The e7 bishop covers c5. Okay, what about this diagonal here? Well, b6 is covered by the queen, c7 is covered by the queen, d8 is covered by the bishop and the rook. And what about this direction? Okay, well, all these three squares are covered by the queen. Our queen. How do we do that? Like this. So the only real route they've got back is this way, right? And we can just take that away from them straight away and win the queen. Okay, we have got puzzle number 15. All right. Interesting. Okay. What are our opponent's threats and all that? You should do that, but this one's just kind of obvious straight away. We play f3. The king's got to go h5, and you play g4 with a fork. Or a fork, which is a special case of the
Double attack.
It's fucking loud, that, isn't it? Oh, these are so cool. Can we get that again?
Double attack.
Yep, double attack. All right, let's go. All right, here we go. So we are an exchange down. By that I mean minor piece for rook. That's called the exchange. Really weird terminology. And a pawn down. So 3 material points down. But their king is kind of open, and they've got a few pieces that are unprotected, namely b8 rook, h8 rook. Unprotected pieces. And there are routes to get to this king. So captures and checks are what you usually look for in these kinds of positions. There's quite a few captures. There's bishop f7. There's rook takes e5. There's knight takes d6. Yeah, and in the checks, there's queen g5. Queen g5 just looks great. It looks absolutely crushing somehow. Queen g5. Why does it look so good? Alright, is there anything else before we start calculating? Don't see anything else. If we play queen g5, I think they must move their king. Alright. They can throw in the f6 pawn for us to capture. I don't really think that works. Because we'll take on f6 with check, and it's the same problem. In fact, the problem is probably even worse, because then we're attacking this guy as well. So queen g5. Where's the king gonna... Obviously, you can't play queen e7. E7 is covered by our knight. So not that. Alright. So king moves. I mean... Let's say... Alright, let's say king goes to e8. It's not that obvious, this one. It's not that obvious. Very, very powerful combination of pieces, queen and knight, but one that I'm not best at that. I've got to be honest. I have to be honest. I feel like I'm missing something here. Okay, anyway, let's say that they do go to e8. I don't know, knight g7 check, forces king f8. I still don't see a knockout there. I don't see a knockout. What am I missing? I'm definitely missing something here. Ah, okay, okay, hang on. Queen g5, king e8. Is there a queen g7? That would force rook f8. Yeah, that also looks like it's not terrible. Okay, this is difficult. What am I missing? I'm definitely missing something. I am definitely missing something. Queen g5. It's interesting, this puzzle is quite low rated. It's only 1460. I'm just really struggling to see the exact follow-up. The other thing is, what else is there in the position? So if we just look at all the moves and nothing else looks as good or really seems to do anything, then it has to be queen g5. And maybe that's how we should proceed. So, knight moves. Knight g7, knight h6 is just a blunder. Knight h4, knight g3, I don't think they do anything. Knight e3, knight d4 is just a blunder. Knight takes d6. Probably just going to go queen d6. I don't see what we get for giving the knight up. Bishop f7. Nah, any other bishop moves? I don't think so. Rook moves. Don't think so. All right, any of the queen moves that we've missed? I don't think so. I think it has to be queen g5, but I'm not kind. I really want to see exactly what the solution is before I play the move, and that's what we should be aiming for. So, because in the game you don't know. Oh, by the way, this is there's a unique winning move. All right, king e8. Mm-hmm. Okay, right, I think I see. Then you go knight g7, king f8, and I think rook f1 is a very good move there. Because then we're piling up on f7 with the bishop and the rook, and it's quite hard to defend. It's going to be a check, and we're going to win the queen. And the reason for that is that this knight on g7 has prevented this rook here on h8 from defending the f7 pawn via h7. So that position looks quite hard to defend, actually. So that's not so difficult, not so easy to see. Queen g5. If they go king e8, knight g7, g7 check, forces king f8, and then rook f1 looks very good. Okay, actually, then they could go queen a7 check. Oh, wow. Okay, then we've got king h2 in that position. Apologies, I've just got rid of all the arrows. Then they could go rook b7, and that's a form of defense. But unfortunately, in that position, queen e d8 is made. That's a long line for such a low-rated puzzle. Probably because there's no other reasonable move, but that's quite interesting. So queen g5, king e8, knight g7, king f8, rook f1, queen a7 check. We could try to block the diagonal, but I think we can also just go king h2, rook b7. So the reason for queen a7 check was to be able to block with the rook, or to defend f7 with this rook on b8, bring it to b7, so that when we to cover f7 twice. But then both of these pieces, or the back rank is then weak. Oh no, but queen e d8 is not made there because the knight's hanging. Oof. Okay, but there is knight e6 check, king e8, we're going to have to put that position on the board. So I'm sure that queen g5 is the move. Probably the king is going to go off onto the c file. So let's see what that looks like. So king g5, king c7. I guess then rook c1 check. But then then there's bishop c6. Yeah, then there's bishop d5, winning the bishop. All right, so instead, let's say king b6. King goes to b6. Can we finish them off? Yes. Queen goes back to e3 on the dark squares. Okay, let's just put that on the board. Ha, they did play f6. That's hilarious. That's the first move we thought about that we said. If the solution here is queen takes f6 and then well done, we're going to have a chat about that. Okay. This makes sense, right? King c7 was the move in order to defend rook with rook. Yeah, the rook's attacked. All right. I mean, it's got to be rook c1 check to continue, I would say. Don't see much else. And then, well done. What do you mean, well done? Let's have a quick look. How do we analyze this from here? Here we go. We can do this on the spot. Okay, so, or can we? I thought we could. It doesn't seem to be working, at least in this window. So, let's do what we just did, which is go back. That's going to open another tab. I hope you guys can see that. I think you can. Right, the line that I was talking about was... No, right, we're going to be forced to solve the puzzle so that we can then go back and analyze. Okay. So, was this. Okay. Oh, this is even nicer. This is even nicer. All right, so bishop f7. This is the move that I missed. Bishop f7. Knight g7 is only just about better. It's the move that I missed. And this is so important. It was bishop f7. Oh, what a beautiful move. All right. Obviously, queen takes f7. There's knight fork. So it's not that. But what if they play king takes... The computer is saying queen g7, which I thought, yes. Okay, king e, so queen g7, king e6. And then, I guess we've got knight d4 in that position because the e5 pawn is pinned. That's going to force king d5, which funnily enough attacks our knight. But then we win their queen, right? Queen g7, king e6, knight d4, king d5, queen takes d7, GG. All right, nice. Bishop f7. That was lovely. All right, puzzle number 17. And almost run out of brew. I am a heavyweight tea drinker. I don't fuck around. All right, now in this position we are 2 minor pieces down. And we've got 1 pawn back for those 2 minor pieces. But we've also got a very, very wobbly king here on h7. Does the opponent have any threats? Don't see any, apart from obviously rook takes rook. We're not going to allow that. I think if we just play, this is interesting. Queen h4. No, green arrow. Queen h4. I think knight takes h4 is just about forced. The only other legal move would be queen h4. They're not going to do that because we just take the queen with the rook. All right, then we play rook takes h4 check. And if they don't want to give their queen up there, they need to move their king. 2 spots are possible. There's king g6 or there's king g7. In either case, you're going to get hit with rook back to g5, which is going to place your king either on f6 or g7. Now, not f6, so let's just put that line on the board so you can see. Queen h4, knight h4, rook takes h4. let's say king g7. I don't think it really matters. Rook back to g5. It's hard to see. All right, let's just go queen h4, knight h5, rook takes h5. Let's just memorize that position. Let's say king then goes to g7. We go rook to g5. They can't go king f6 because we'll go rook takes g8 check, and we'll win their queen. So they have to end up on f7. So we can imagine the position where this queen is here, this rook isn't, this knight isn't here, and the king is on f7. And there's a couple of moves that spring to mind there. Either queen h7 or rook f1. Rook f1 check. King will go to e7. I like queen h7 better. King goes to f6. Rook f1. King takes g5. Queen h. Oh no, the bishop's not protecting. Okay. Anyway, that's one move that we could play. Is there any other moves? I don't think so. We just chatted for a long time. But I want to see the end of that line. Queen h4. Knight h5. Rook takes h4. h5. I reckon what the computer will play there is queen takes h5. Anyway. King g7. Rook goes back to g5. King f7. Queen h7. Check. King f6. Is there a knockout there? We can't go rook f1. The bishop's holding it. So that's interesting. Looks like the king ends up on f7. Anyway, we win a piece back. We're 2 pieces down, though. Interesting. All right. Are there any other moves, though? I don't think so. Queen h4. And this is why, we really should push ourselves to understand, why is this forced? Why does the computer play this move? Why does it give their queen up? We're going to find that out. So let's go back. Okay, now we have to solve the puzzle again to get the analysis to work, which we've done. So let's just drop back. And yeah, so why not king g7? Okay, so there's, the common problem of not considering all moves at some node in the variation. Rook h7 apparently is much stronger. Rook g5. Rook g5 is not winning. That's why we couldn't find the solution there. So we should trust ourselves when that happens. Rook h7. Okay, and the threat of queen f6 is bad. Okay. And if you go to g6, by the way, so king f8, queen f6 is just mate. So you have to go to g6. This is already looking very dodgy. Indeed. In fact, queen h6 is just mate in 1. All right, not bad, not bad. So we're on puzzle number 18. Okay, what a guan? We have got. We're in exchange down. What are our opponent's threats? Opponent is threatening to capture our pawn on c5, which is a very important pawn. We don't want to lose that. We definitely do not want to lose that. Okay. We've got this pawn on g6, which is covering the h7 and f7 squares. Meaning that if we could land our rook on the back rank, that would be... what would that be? What do you call that?
Back rank mate.
Yeah, that's it. Brilliant, brilliant. But I don't think the solution to this one is going to be a
Back rank mate.
because our opponent's not going to move this thing from b8. So that's not gonna happen. But what can we do? I guess we could play knight f5 to attack the g7 with the rook, which is a check, and then unleash the g6 pawn. I think that could be our only idea. Also, incidentally, let's get the arrow right. Knight f5 threatens knight e7, knight fork. Okay, so I said we didn't want to give up our c5 pawn. So knight f5, they can then take on c5. Rook g7 check. Ah, interesting. Interesting. That's a critical position. I think they're not going to go king h8. Why not? Because then it's interesting. We should see this. So knight f5, rook takes c5. Let's say, as a shot to try and defend, and to get away from the fork on e7. Rook takes g7. If they go king h8, there's rook h7, forces king g8. Then there's knight e7 check. E7 check. Yeah, that's e7. Yes, it's e7 check. That forces king h8, king f8, and then there's rook h8 check, which is a skewer, picks off the rook over here. They'll take our knight on e7, and then we just push g7, and we're going to make a queen. Actually, we're not going to make a queen, because in that position, and we'll show this whole line, they'll play rook g5, but then we'll play g8 queen, and we'll win their rook for our newly promoted queen. That's why they can't go king h8. King f7, by the way, the position is after knight f5, rook takes c5, rook takes g7, king f8. What do we do there? Because our knight is attacked. But my initial thought was that we can probably play rook h7. Let's just think about that position. Nah, I don't think we promote our g6 pawn in time to make that work. We'll end up in a drawn rook and pawn ending by my calculations. We'll show that as well. So interesting. Right, is there anything other than knight f5 realistically? I don't think so. I think that has to be the move. But what's interesting is, like, if you were in a game and you saw, you know, a variation which led to this position in which you were to move, this is a winning position. But in order to see that it's winning, we need to know and be able to calculate what happens after knight f5, rook c5, rook takes g7, king f8. You know, I think I'm getting there. I think I'm getting there now. Excuse me. I think I'm getting there. Actually, I think rather than my first thought, which was rook h7, threatening the skewer on h8, perhaps we actually go back to f7 check. The idea being that I don't think there the king can go to e8, right? Let's say the king has to go back to g8. That's a big problem, because then there's a knight takes h6 check. Basically, wherever the king goes there are checks. Yeah, you keep checking the king. They don't have time to play rook takes f5. That's kind of clear. Okay. Rook takes g7. And they at least forced us to solve this. Right, so now we really need to think, because we don't want to break the streak. I think it's rook f7 check. Other option would be rook h7 check, which looks like it blunders the f5 knight, but it doesn't due to rook h8 check. Then would follow actually king g7. Yeah, takes, and just king takes g6. And in fact, it's not clear that's even drawn because we're pawn down, and their king's a lot better than ours. Anyway, and they've got some nice pawns on the queen side. So on that basis alone, I think it has to be rook f7. On rook f7, so two king moves. If they go king g8, then there's knight takes, h6, forces king h8, then there's g7 check, king h7, and then we make a queen with check. They take this, and then we actually mate them. We'll show that line. All forced. It's like mate in 6 or something. Rook f7. Therefore, they have to go king e8, and I think we've got knight d6. King d8, and then probably just g7 is the move. No, I'll tell you what the move is there. I think this is the move. So f7, rook f7, king e8, knight d6, king d8. Actually, no, it's not obvious. Yeah, I was thinking that we could trade rooks and then push the pawn, but we don't actually have time. So I think rook f7, king e8, king e8, knight d6, king d8, g7, rook g5. We still don't have time to promote. Haha, haha. Rook g5, knight f7 check. Oh no, our rook's on f7. Oof. It's still not so easy. So let's just try and work this out. So rook f7, king d8, king e8, knight d6, king d8, and then g7. Rook g5. Oh. Rook g5. And then there's rook f8 check, king c7. I don't see it, and I don't see that we're winning there. So maybe not g7. So rook f7, king e8. Rook f7, king e8, knight d6 check. Knight d6, I think, has to be. King d8. Whoa, don't know. Whoa. Okay, we're gonna have to go and check that one out. Okay, let's do it. So, knight f5. Yep, rook g7. Rook f7. And let's just... So, by the way, if they go king... Rook f7. If they go king g8, we had knight h6, king h8. Rook h7 is just mate. Rook h7 is mate in 1. I was thinking we could do this, 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 and mate this way, but I missed a mate in 1, which is terrible. What? I didn't see it after here. I mean, engine's like, calculating moves. Something's not right with the browser. Anyway, can we see for ourselves what we're missing? Maybe actually we can do a bit of this. No, I still don't like that. I'll win this pawn back. So my other thought was g7 there. No, not there. Here. g7. I'm going to go here. Yeah, I don't know. The engine has just lost it. So let's see if we can reboot that. Got anything on? No, we can't use the engine here. Okay. Let's see if after solving this puzzle for the 3rd time, the engine understands. Okay, so knight d6 is winning. It's not apparently the best move. Bunch of moves are winning here. Okay. But g7 is not as winning as everything else. Rook g5. Okay, it's just saying long-term pressure, I think. Long-term pressure. Okay. Where are we? All right, this is puzzle number 19. What time is it? How long have we been on? Let's have a quick look. No, just over an hour. All right, puzzle number 19. All right, what are our opponent's threats? 6v6, material is completely even. I guess this thing, our e6 knight, our e6 rook is attacked twice, but it's defended twice. So that's cool. You know what I think? There are a lot of captures in this position, and we should calculate all of them. Queen takes g7 is no good. Rook takes g7, and there's nothing. And then there are 2 other captures. Rook takes e7 and rook takes f6. I think the correct move is rook takes e7. What does this do? It discovers an attack on the d7 queen. All right, so when our opponent is thinking about what to do, I think they've got 2 options. Well, there's really... Well, how can they recover the rook? They can't take back with the queen, right? Because our rook is defended. But moreover, they can't take back with the bishop because then their queen is hanging. So therefore, based on that, the only thing that they can do is trade queens. Okay, and then recapture. But then we just send up a piece up. So rook takes e7, we'll trade queens, and then we'll recover this bishop at the end of the line. Nice and easy. It's mad how some of the puzzles are so much easier than others for the same rating. And I think what's going on there is that the first move is relatively easy to find. It's just that the variation behind it in the non-optimal case for the opponent is quite difficult. All right, what are our opponent's threats? they've got a lot of pressure on our pinned knight on f6. All right, that's currently attacked by 3 pieces. And it's defended, luckily, by 1, 2, 3, 4. So, what can we do here? It looks like we can take this piece. Right, the e4 knight is only defended twice. Right, and it's attacked 3 times. Let's just use circles. Right, the knight here is defended twice. It's attacked 3 times. So why can't we just capture that? And here's where I think this puzzle works. So rook takes e4. Now if they play queen e4, if they take back with the queen, we're just going to trade queens and then trade rooks. And we're going to be a piece up, because the knights at the end of the line are going to protect each other. So they can't. I don't think they can trade queens. The move we should look at first, I guess, is actually bishop takes f6 check. Okay, but then we just take back with a knight, and we haven't lost a defender. Okay, so we're still going to be a piece up in that position. So the only other move left is rook takes. Then we play queen takes. And again, if they trade queens, it's just transposes. So I don't think there's any problems. Okay. Oh, nice. We've got a king and pawn ending. Ah, this is well interesting. Oh, it's not that interesting. It's less interesting than I thought it was to begin with. We just push this pawn, and the king cannot get into the square of that pawn. Right, that's the square, and the king is outside of that box. We should be able to put an X over the king, like, you're out of there. So this is just a simple case. Push the pawn, and we're done. All right, now we can go into an end king and pawn ending by just capturing and forking. The question is that winning? What plan will we have in that position? Our plan would be to capture this b6 pawn with our king. King a5, king d7, king a4, king b5, king c7, and we don't have time to capture it. All right, so if we trade, we can take the pawn. We're only a pawn up in that position, so yeah. Is there anything better? Interesting, because, you know, well, we can throw a check in, I guess. Okay. What are our opponent's threats? I don't see any. Oh, yeah. Bishop takes b3 is a big threat. We shouldn't allow that. All right. Candidate moves. Rook is also threatening to take our rook. So we have to handle this somehow. We can't obviously defend this piece. I say we can't defend this piece because it's attacked twice. So we have to do something about it. We can move it with check in 2 ways. We can play rook b4 check, or we can play rook takes d3 check. I guess on rook takes d3 check, king takes d3, we can just take this pawn. And I think probably what seals it is that leaves us with a clear passed h pawn. So we're going to go for that. Oh, streak over. Can you believe it? Wow. Okay, let's regroup. Okay, let's analyze. So, okay, the correct Whoa. Right. Should have looked further into the king and pawn ending. Oh, that's a bit disappointing. Okay, it happens. This is why. I'll keep going. Okay, let's just finish the puzzle off, and then we can just see the analysis. If the king goes back to d2, we take on d1. They take. We go king a4. They go king e2. King g4. King f2. Okay, the position I saw that I thought was winning was this one. We go like so. They have to take. They go here. We go here, and we will win this pawn. You know, for example, let's say they try and hold on to it like this. Well, that's it. So how else can you try and hold on to the pawn? You can do this. But then, I mean, it's just the same thing. So, misdemeanor and a misstep. Okay, so we've got to start the streak again, which we will do. You know, we'll come back for that. But thanks for watching Puzzle Streak on Full Bob Vision. Someone did watch for a good 13 minutes. You know, thanks to that person. I wish I knew you could find out who that was. Got any texts? No. All right, we're going to come back and we're going to go again. But before then, we're just going to have a short break. See you later. All right, y'all, we're back in business. We're back in business. So, yeah, streak was over. Streak was over. We made a hash of it. So let's go. All right, this is a mate in 1. Queen f7 is a mate. Checkmate. Let's go. Okay, what do we got here? We're playing the black pieces. Okay. We are playing the black pieces. We're a pawn down. Queen f4. Forces g3 and then queen f2 is actually mate. So that was a mate in 2. All right, what do we got here? Okay. So we're 2 whole pawns down. But the position is wide open. And, you know, both kings are a bit loose. But we've got the move. So what can we do with that move? Well, this is interesting. We can play bishop f5. And there's no e4. Right, that might look like it's okay to play. Because it's defended twice. But remember that this guy, this knight on c3, is pinned. So if we play bishop f5 and they play e4, we can just play bishop takes e4. Okay, is there anything better? I don't see anything better. I think probably what's going to happen is we'll end up winning this knight. So bishop f5. If you go king d2, queen d3 check, we'll win the knight next. So instead, if you go king g2, b2, then queen b4 check is also going to win the knight. There's no squares left. So queen d3, and then we pick up the knight with check, actually, which is nice. Okay. This already looks suspicious. Okay. Knight e7, king h8, queen takes h5, mate. All right. Okay, I think we just play king a3. Oh, it's actually a6. King a6, and there's no defense against b7 check. A mate, actually. In fact, I think the only... Yeah, there's no defense at all, is there? Against it. All right. So here it's tempted to take the queen, but unfortunately, if we did, we'd get back rank mated ourselves. Rook c8, rook takes c8. So not that. But if we throw in an intermezzo, rook b6 check, this forces the king somewhere to the a file, and then probably actually to a2. Then we've got rook takes a8, and that forces bishop a3. And then, well, we're an exchange up. So rook b6. Yeah. Okay, very nice. Okay. This is mate in 2. Just rook b3, king c1, rook a1 is mate. Okay, now things are getting a little bit more intéressant. But I think here, I mean, queen d8, king f7. Various moves. Probably we just take the rook in the corner. We have to be careful. So in the resulting position, after king d8, queen d8 check, king f7, queen takes a8, h8. We've got to be careful that there aren't any discoveries. Namely, this rook on a8, x-raying our queen. If this bishop could move with menace in that position, we might have a problem. But doesn't look like it can. Just going to go ahead and just put that on the board. Okay. The queen has blocked our check. We're in exchange down. And 3 pawns in exchange and 3 pawns down. Wow. And evidently still winning. Yeah. And I see that this e6 pawn is hanging and it's not defended by this queen because the queen is pinned. So rook e6 looks like a great move. It's a check, attacks the queen, we pick up the queen next. And that gives us back 4 of our 4 points back from our material that we're down. But let's just see. So rook e6. Rook takes e6, check. King will expect go to d7. Rook takes c6. bc. I mean, it's not clear. Our pieces don't have much life in the position. Maybe queen a3 is an annoying move in that position to bring the king in here. If you can dislodge this knight, is there anything better? I don't think so. We could trade queens first just to win a pawn, but that doesn't look like it's the right way to treat this position. The king went to f7. Okay, I'm interested just to see what would happen if the king instead decided to go here to d7. Okay, there's only one move. There's only one move that's gives white a decisive advantage, and that's bishop f4. I suggest that move's quite hard to find. That's not clear at all. Okay, the bishop was attacked, so I guess you move it somewhere. All right, back to the streak. Puzzle number 10. What have we got here? Well, there's a fork. Well, there isn't actually. The fork is defended. Does our opponent have any threats? They're a pawn up, so, you know, just I think they're threatening to just take on b3. Okay, the a pawn is pinned. So actually, we can just play knight takes b5. King moves somewhere. Let's say king b4. Knight takes c7. Bishop takes c7. And the resulting position, we're an exchange up. A whole exchange. And I don't think black has anything in that position. Okay. What do I want to do here? We're a pawn down. Does our opponent have any threats? Don't see any threats. I think we're just mating in 2 here with rook g5, forcing king h8 and then queen f6. So let's just put that on the board. Okay. I think we have to be winning here with e5. Let's say e5, king g5, king takes h7, rook takes h7, forcing king to h7, h6 even. And now, if we win a pawn, let's put the right colours on the board. e5, king g5, rook takes h6, king takes h6, e takes f4, g takes f4, king takes f4, and the resulting position is not clear. It's not absolutely clear, but if you picture this position, the way to understand this position is to take all of these pieces off the board. Right, put the king here and this king here. It's white's move they need how many moves to queen in that position? Well, they need to move their king, and then they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they've got 6 moves. For us, we need to move our king, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 moves. So for us, it takes 5. But it's their move first. So we're going to queen, and then they're going to queen. So it's not obvious. I think the point is that actually their king actually this is what will occur in that position. Now if they move their king first, it has to be to the G7 square, okay? And then actually black can move their king to G4, and this pawn is not going to actually make it. So that demonstrates that they can't move their king. They have to play A4 first. Okay, fine. Then we go king B4. That's not B4, that's G4. So they play H4 first. Then we go king G4. We attack this pawn. Now if they advance their pawn, we just advance ours, and it's Zugzwang. Their king can't move without giving up the pawn. And that's it, it's forced. So, game over. Let's just check that. My analysis. So we're forced to solve the puzzle again. That's kind of annoying, but that's the way it is. So what I was saying was a king move here just allows this, and it's obvious that we're queening and they aren't. But if they advance first, then we just go here. They have to advance again, we advance, and there's no way for the king to go, so here we take, and that's a wrap. Okay, puzzle number 13. Okay, the idea here is that we can push the king, the c6 king, the f3 king, away from the defense of the rook on g2, simply with rook checks. So rook f7. Now we're controlling both the g and the f file, so the king has to move to the e file, or play rook f4, but that just loses another rook. So rook f7, probably king e3, and then we just pick off a whole rook. We should have looked and made sure that we weren't getting mated in the resulting position. Okay. Now then, what are our opponent's threats? Maybe this is queen d5 check should be called a threat. Queen takes c4, just picking off more materials. We're already a piece down. A whole piece. Okay, so we've got two obvious candidates, bishop h7 and queen h7. Bishop h7, queen h7. Which should we play? Well, queen h7 looks more forcing. Queen h7, check, because actually it's h2. King f2. Then you've got bishop g3. That forces king e2. Then we could play queen takes g2, but then they'll have a rook f2. Well, we can play bishop f2, but then they can play bishop f2. And, you know, in the resulting position, they're going to have two pieces for a rook. Interesting. But we did take 2 pawns in the process, so we would have material. We'd be material ahead, and the king would be wide open. So I think we can say that that's winning for that reason. Bishop h2, king f2. I don't see the follow-up. I have to say queen h4. King e2. Then what do? We didn't get the exchange, so I think we have to go queen h2, king f2, bishop g3. There's also queen g3. If we play queen g3, king e2, queen takes g2, check, then rook f2, and we're on the back foot. So I think it has to be this. And now this move just looks very attractive. Okay. Puzzle number 15. Okay, does our opponent have any threats? Don't see any. Actually, yes, there is one. Bishop g7. Check. And attacking our f8 rook. Okay. Bearing that in mind, our bishop is doing a great job of controlling the f1 square. So rook f1, pinning the queen to the king, looks like a great move. So I think we can put that on the board. What would happen if we did that? Just sometimes you get into hot water, right? Let's just check this bishop check. Bishop g7 check. I guess I want to go king g6. And I don't see any follow-up there. No. Okay. Is there anything else? That's the question we should be asking. All right. I think this is the typical situation where you give a check, but the king becomes a good attacking piece. We just drop the king back to e3. And we're attacking both of their pieces. Right? And, you know, we're attacking the rook with the king. The king attacks the rook. The king also attacks the knight, which is already attacked by the rook. So the rook's defense is no longer enough. Okay, so what they do after king d3, I think that they have to play, so king e3, knight c5, knight c5, or c8. By the way, so this is king e3, knight c5 or c1. We play king takes d2, they play knight takes b3 check, we play king c3, and we just got 3 extra pawns for the knight. So maybe there's another way of doing it. Alright, so 3 pawns for the knight. Interesting. It looks like we'd be winning that position. Because the king and pawns are just going to outplay that knight. So king e3, what about knight c5, c1? Can white do any better than going into that pawn versus knight ending? Pawns versus knight. I guess you could try rook c3. But then there's just rook d1. I don't think we're winning any material. Still, this has to be the move. That's funny. White would rather go into a rook and pawn ending. Makes sense. I wish I'd seen that. They're the kind of moves I need to start seeing. Even in these simple puzzles, there's so much. I've got a challenge again from this person. Who is this person? So a quick look. Six games of Rapid. Member since 13th of October. Playing a lot of correspondence. Okay, let's have a quick look. So, what are our opponent's threats? Opponent's threatening queen takes h4, taking our queen off the board. And I think that's about it. Alright, so we don't allow that to happen. Okay, for us, there are a few captures. There's queen takes f2. Will be a capture and check, but trading queens doesn't look right when we look down on material. Queen takes h2, just no way. Rook takes e2. I mean, we just hang our queen again, so it doesn't meet the threat of our queen being attacked. Queen g5 is the move that looks attractive. And the key to this puzzle is that this rook is undefended. Now, we should be seeing that first, that the c1 rook is undefended. Queen g5 picks up a whole rook by the looks of things. So, there we go. And with a check. Alright, so we're on puzzle number 18. Alright, what's going on here? Looks like this queen's trapped, to be honest. Looks like the queen on f8 is trapped. And actually, it's quite a complex trap, I think. We play rook c8. But actually, it's not that complex. I was thinking that they could take on d6, but we're gonna take the queen, right? Queen for rook. Yeah. Okay. So rook c8. Can they extricate their queen? I don't think so. Okay, but they could try, could they not? Rook takes d6. And then the crucial point about that position is that our queen is defended and theirs isn't. So if they try that, so after rook c8, rook takes d6, rook takes f8, they go rook takes f6, and we just play rook takes f6, and we have an extra rook. Okay, so after rook c8, I don't think there's any way out. So off it goes. All right, puzzle number 19. All right, this is this is the first one we've had on the puzzle streak, and we've got something. We've got something here. You know what this is? It's a
queen sacrifice.
That one's good, isn't it? I like that one. All right, rook takes d8. The only legal move is knight takes d8. And then we've got rook takes e8, and that's a mate. Well, actually, it's not a mate because it's king h7, but then rook h8 is mate. This bishop on b2 just owning the diagonal. All good. All right. What have we got going on? All right. You know what? Let's remove the defender. Yep.
Removing the guard.
We play rook takes e6. And that leaves their queen. Rook takes d3. That leaves their queen on c1 undefended. So if they try to trade queens, then we take our Ombre rook away from danger whilst reclaiming the queen, and we're a solid piece up. Okay, but let's just check. Do they have anything if they recapture with the rook and they hang their queen deliberately? No, there's nothing in that position. So rook takes d3, expecting queen takes e3, and then rook takes e3, netting a piece. All right, we've got the black pieces. We're a whole rook down. In fact, worse. A rook and 2 pawns. But I think it's mate in 1. You know, bishop f7 is... it's not mate in 1. mate in 2. This is interesting. So if we were to play queen a5, the king would have the b3 square. So we play bishop c2 first, forcing the pawn to occupy the b3 square, and then queen a5 is mate. Okay, very nice. Very nice indeed. All right, here we are, puzzle number 21. Okay, what's going on? We are a knight down, but the king is in a really bad spot. The enemy king sat there on d2. How can we exploit this? Well, how many checks are there in the position? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think. Let's just enumerate them. Rook f2 check looks stupid because of queen f2. Rook d3 check looks stupid because of knight takes d3. Queen d1 and c2 both look stupid because they just get captured. Queen b4, we also just get captured. So the only one that's left that doesn't look immediately stupid is this c3. Now on c3, I think there are only 2 legal moves. There's either bc or there's king e2. Let's look at king e2. On king e2, you see there's then queen e4. That forces king e1. And then there's, if nothing else, yeah, there would be c2, king d2. Just looking to see if there's anything better than c2 check in that position. I didn't see anything. So c2, king d2. I guess queen d4. King takes c2. And then there's rook c7. And that's mate. Rook c7 is mate there. Okay. So you'd have to play knight d3, but then there's queen d3 in that line. Okay, so I'll show that afterwards. f6 check. Gf. Queen takes c5. Sorry, we're looking at king e2. King e2. Queen e4 I think is winning. It forces this sequence. King e1, c2, check. King back to d2, queen d4. If knight d3, queen d3 is mate. So they've got to go king takes c2, but then rook c7 is actually mate. Oh no, there's queen f6. Queen f6, then rook f6, gf. Queen f6, can we calculate all the way to the end? Queen f6 check. Probably king c2, queen e3, king d1. Yeah, I'll just take the rook. Anyway, that's stupid. So instead of, so after f3, after c3 check, they're going to go bc. Then there's queen f4 check, right? And we win this rook. That's the whole point. Very nice. Should have looked in the resulting position. What happens? It's a bad habit that we don't do that. Okay, what do we got here? I think this is going to be mate in a few moves after queen takes h4, king g1, or king g2. Well, let's look at king g1, queen h2 is mate. Okay, so instead, let's look at king g2, queen h2 is mate. So that's a mate in 2. All right, puzzle number 24. And where are we at for time here? It's 7:20. Okay. You know what? I think this is just a golden opportunity. h7 check. I think you've got to play rook h7. If you don't play rook h7, what do? You go king f8, but then h8, rook, mate. Okay, so h7, rook takes h7, bishop h7, check, king h8. Oh no, that's mate. Bishop h7 is mate. Very nice. Okay. So our opponent is threatening mate in 2 ways. Queen can go to either g1 or h1 with mate. So we got to do something about that. And I think we can. I think we can go queen d8, king f7, queen e8 mate. So let's do that. All right. This is insane, but I think the queen is trapped. I think the queen on h3 is trapped. Oh, no. No, it's not. No, it ain't. Okay, but we can bring this king out on h4. So we play queen f6. All right, the king has exactly 1 legal move, which is king h5. And what's interesting is what the squares that the king has here when it's on h5. You see this a lot. So g4 is occupied. Our queen, let's put them on as green squares, covers these guys. Right. So you just need to give the king a check. And it's mate. Right. We do that from f7. All right. Does our opponent have any threats? There are no checks apart from rook g1, queen d5 and queen c6. Both queen d5 and queen c6, these just lose the queen. And this doesn't seem to do anything. This is not a threat because the bishop is pinned. So, how can we exploit this situation? What do we notice about the position? It's not obvious. Ah, got it. Okay, so we can play rook e6. What does that do? We have to calculate a little bit because there are checks. But we can play rook e6. And the queen must move. I guess it has to try and defend this bishop. Yeah, because the whole point of rook e6 is that we're x-raying a second attack on this bishop. So we can capture it. Now, rook e6, you would like to bring the queen somewhere to defend the bishop, right? But you actually can't do that. The only square you could do it from, you know, that you can see would be d3, but d3 is covered. Right, so that's not possible. So instead, they want to give you a check. There's 2 ways they can check you. They can check you with a rook or with the queen. With the queen seems to make the most sense. I think then we just go and hide on h3. There are no further checks. And it doesn't help. The piece construction that we arrive at doesn't help you to defend the bishop. And it's hanging with a check. I think. Okay, so the other idea would be rook d2. check. Then again, king h3. And still, there are no checks. Apart from rook takes h2, king h2. Okay, then you could give a check, queen d2, but then we just block on e2, and you're not getting in. You're just giving the rook up. So rook e6. Yeah, king h3. I did think that they might pin it, but we can just take regardless. Okay. All right, what do we got here? Yeah, this is kind of interesting. The material balance is actually dead even, if you think about it. Let's pair these knights off, and then we've got rook, knight, and pawn for queen. So it's material balance. How do we exploit the situation? This one is not at all obvious to me what to do here and why we're winning. All right, candidate moves. I think I see it. Rook e1, rook d1. We pin this knight. We pin the d7 knight to the d8 queen. There's no way out of the pin. Right, because these knights just protect one another, so they can't be captured by, obviously not by the king. And you take it with the queen, well, we take back. And we're an exchange up and a pawn, so that's what we do. Rook d1, queen. All right, they went this way. You know, I should start seeing that these things are possible. Because what we want to be able to do is predict the computer's moves. Okay, we are pinned. All right, but I mean, what can we do? We can play bishop takes f2 check, which we think might be a good idea. Or we can play queen takes d7, queen takes e2, or we can take the queen. Now, we just end up material up if we take their queen, because they're going to take ours. We're going to recapture. And just a bishop up for a pawn there, right? No other moves. The only question is then, is there anything better? And the only other thing that I see working out, by the way, if we take their rook, they'll just take our bishop and be a pawn up. At least. Okay, we might win that pawn back straight away, but there's no way that we're winning that in game. So bishop takes f2. Is that somehow wonderfully any better? Well, if they went king h1, you know, that would be good, because then we can take this. But what they'll actually do is go king f1, I would say, or maybe actually even king g2. Yeah, so what we want to do is just take that queen. Don't think that offers anything. Okay. I think this is a case of bishop not being able to play against two pawns, which Dvoretsky calls the trousers, or pants, actually. The pants, he calls it. I think we advance this way. It's interesting that there are that there's only one winning move, because it looks like you just, you push this here and then you push this all the way. But I think the point is that the e6 pawn is the one to push, right? Because this guy's blockaded, and at the end of the day, its queen in square is already covered, right? This guy is protected on the square, which is covered. So as it continues to advance, it's going to force this bishop to do something about it, or this king to try to catch it. So I think the line is going to go e5, probably king takes h5, e4, king g4, and then I think, we can't keep advancing because the opponent's king's going to catch us. So I think in that position we play king c4. Intending to meet king f4 with king d3. And then we just start pushing. Good that we got to this position. So king c4. I think it has to be. Right? What else could we do? Right? Let's just sort everything else out. If we go e3, they'll go king f3. And we won't be able to defend that pawn. And if we go a3, they'll go king f4. We won't be able to advance this. These squares are covered, so king c4. Very good. Alright, puzzle number 31. We are getting places. We're going places. We're making progress. Okay, we've got 5 pawns. They've got 7 pawns. So a couple of pawns down in this minor piece ending. We could trade rooks, force in their king to e8 so that we can take on c7 with a check. I don't think that's the right thing because we're still going to be a pawn down in the position. There's also a move bishop f4 check. And I think it's quite clear they have to do that, right? They can't go king b1 because this rook is undefended. So actually, in that position, they have to go knight d2. Okay, it's defended. The knight's defended. And you know what? This is really beautiful, actually. I think... No, it's not really beautiful. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, we go knight. Then we go knight takes. Then we go knight takes f7. That's f2 actually. Knight takes f2, and this hits the rook, right? And the rook is a glued defender, right? It's glued to the defense of this knight here. And should it move, that knight will be captured with check. So I don't see a way out. Bishop c5. So bishop f4, knight d2. Knight takes c7. There aren't a lot of moves in the position. Yeah, don't see anything there. Very nice. Okay, puzzle number 32. Okay, there are a couple of nice looking checks here. Namely, queen takes h4 and bishop takes h4. Any other moves that look good? Can't see any. These checks are covered by the queen. These just seem to just hang the queen. Along with this one. Any other captures? No. Alright, so what happens after queen takes h4? There are 2 squares the king can go to. So actually, I'm starting to prefer bishop takes, because now, you see, the king has to come forwards. So it's already forced. And then I think h5 is just mate. Yeah, h5 is a checkmate. So mate in 2. Very nice. Okay, what just happened? Looks like we hung a rook. Yep, we hung a rook. We're a pawn and a rook down, but we got a discovered check, so maybe we didn't hang it. And you see this discovery. Why that one? It's not because we win a pawn. The pawn's irrelevant. The point is that we cover the g7 square. And that means that there are only 2 legal moves. There's king h5, but then queen g5 is mate. So instead of that, they have to go pawn to g5. Okay, but then queen takes g5 is just still mate. So knight e6, followed by queen g5. All right. Okay, so we can win our piece back. By the way, opponent's threats. Don't really see any, apart from queen takes queen. So let's not hang that. Okay, we can win our piece back. Why? Because bringing the bishop to the f5 square with the king on f2, we've just got rook f8, which is going to win that piece back. The question is the resulting rook and pawn ending winning? We have 2 extra pawns, but this one looks like it's just lost. Queen takes, bishop takes, rook f8, rook c1, rook takes check. Let's say king e2. Then I think we can start attacking things. Yeah. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Is there anything better? There is this move. That's a check, but yes. Just one sec, y'all. Yep.
You still doing?
I'm just streaming puzzle. Aww.
Which one? I've got chocolate and I've got strawberry.
One sec, y'all.
Am I live? Oh God.
Yeah, you're on cam.
Oh, thanks. Which one do you like?
I'm back, y'all. Okay. I don't think we get anything better from rook d out of rook d2. Check. I don't think so. I think this is the way to make progress. All right, puzzle number 35. Yeah, okay, so our opponent's threats. Actually, I think c7, c8 is a big threat, so we need to keep our eye on that. It's important. Got my dinner. It's important to keep our eye on that. The thing that strikes me here is we've got a knight f3 check, which discovers an attack on d1. We'll be winning an exchange. Now, it's quite complicated. Let's say we go f3. I think they've got the option. Not sure it's actually necessary. It is necessary, actually. Okay, they have to. I think they have to trade queens. If they don't, let's say they go, I don't know, king f1. We take this with check. They go king e2. And then we've got rook d2 check. Forcing them actually back to f1. And from there, I think we can probably extricate our knight. Okay, so I think they have to go queen f3. We go queen takes f3. Then I think they're going to go gf. Okay, then we take their rook and that's a check. They go king h2, and I think we slot ourselves behind the pawn, and it can't advance. So, you know, again, mistake I made. King g2. King goes to g2. Okay. All right, we're up 2 pawns for a bishop. They're threatening to take on f7, which looks really bad for us. However, alright, so we need to meet that. If we play c2 straight away, I think they're going to play rook takes f7, and that's causing all sorts of problems. Okay. It threatens mate. Even if we recapture, we get mated, so it's too much. I don't think we can deal with all of those threats at all. So why not rook f5 first? Rook f5 first looks good. Rook f5 first. Okay. Then I'm looking at the moves queen e3 and queen g2. Alright, is there anything else? I mean, I don't see anything else that meets the threat of f5, of rook takes f5, with any menace. I mean, how else do you meet that threat? f5 gives them a free hand. There is a capture, but I don't like the look of that because it's, you know, it's protected twice. The only other idea I thought was c2. It's not that. So rook f5. Oh, and there we go. Wow. Oh, it was a good puzzle. It was a good puzzle that did us. Oh, well, there we go, y'all. We made it to 35. You know, interesting. Why did we get that wrong? It's a good sound effect when you mess it up. If we play rook f5, let's just go to analysis. That was so cool. If we play rook f5, they just take our queen. Right, terrible. Or we can take their queen. But then they've still got an extra piece. And even if they just go queen g2 or queen e3, we didn't have a follow-up. We saw this move, but I just didn't. We didn't think. Hang on, we can just play c2. All right, thanks. That's all for Puzzle Street this time. We're gonna come back because we enjoyed this. So. Oh, we had some chat and I didn't say anything. I wonder who Doc Waffle Kitty is. Are you watching now, Doc Waffle Kitty? All right, we're going to come back to this. It was fun. We're going to come back, but bye for now.